Making incorrect estate planning decisions can cause your family heartache, additional grief, and can potentially leave your family disinherited. Estate planning is one of the most important things you can possibly have put together. When you pass, there's going to be grief already. You want to make sure that there is not additional unnecessary grief caused by your lack of planning. I'll never forget when my grandma died. Right after the funeral, we had to do a mad dash to her house to collect the belongings and try to secure the property. Why was this? Well, she didn't have a trust. She only had a will. There's no clear estate planning guidelines because a will is not a binding document. Anything can be a will. I can take a napkin, write something down, sign it, that's my will. 6 weeks from now, I can write on another napkin, sign it, that's also a will. Even if these things can be conflicting, neither of them are legal documents. That is why we have probate court. Probate, by definition, is the process of proving the will. Basically figuring out, okay, well, which of these things is accurate, which is valid, was this person in a solid mental state? Is anybody going to dispute this? Because a will is very easy to dispute. For instance, if you leave someone out of the will, that person can claim it was a mistake and it was an oversight. If you want to leave someone out, in a will, you have to specifically write that they are left out. And even then, it can be contested. Probate court, what does it cost? Well, it costs 3% of the total asset value of whatever goes through probate. How long does it take? On average, between 6 to 18 months, but it can go longer than that. My grandma didn't have any trust. She had everything in a will. She got a second marriage in her 70s. One of the properties that she had owned well before her second marriage, and she now owned a new house with her new spouse that she married in her 70s. She didn't have a trust. She just had a will. She got married again in her 70s. And so we had to wait. My parents had to wait all this time going through probate court. It was a real messy situation. This was March of 2008. So while they were going through this messy fight, all her assets were collapsing in value. So there wasn't a good financial plan either. And then at the same time, while there's this messy fight going on, the price of the houses are collapsing, the price of her stocks are collapsing. This is just not a good scenario. And so for most people, it's probably going to make sense to you don't have to get a real like crazy trust or one with all the bells and whistles. At the very least, just get a regular revocable grantor trust, because this way, anything that is named in a trust will avoid probate. You don't even have to deal with that. It goes directly to whoever is listed in the trust as the beneficiaries. It's pretty nice, right? The other aspect are your IRAs, your 401ks. Those avoid probate, so we don't have to worry about that. Here's where the problem becomes, though. With a traditional IRA, a traditional 401k, these things are taxable. And when they go to your children or whoever your heirs are, and assuming it's a non-spouse, they're going to go into an inherited IRA. Now, what's going to happen then? Well, they're going to be forced to take required distributions every year for 10 years. Those distributions are taxable, entirely taxable. And so, assuming many of the people who are going to be inheriting these things are going to be still working. And so what should be a nice inheritance, a nice gift, has a potential to now drastically raise their tax bracket and really lessen the gift you intended. We've got many clients that have disabled children. Your disabled children, if you have any, they're probably on Medicaid, they're probably getting some SSI. Well, those things have income requirements. They have income limits. All of a sudden, if there is massive IRA income coming in that is taxable, that could all of a sudden put Medicaid at jeopardy, that could put SSI at jeopardy. We don't want that. That's why it is very important to really, when you're approaching your estate planning, make sure that whatever you can is going to avoid probate. and make sure that you have a plan to lessen the tax burden for your beneficiaries. Now, how can that be done? That can be done via Roth conversions, making sure that you have a plan to get your assets to tax-free so that when your children or your heirs inherit it, yeah, they're still going to have to take distributions, but those are going to be untaxable. They're getting then tax-free money, and the big part, they're getting to enjoy that entire inheritance amount. That's what we're looking for, and that's why you create an estate plan, right? You create an estate plan to make sure that everything is seamless for your beneficiaries, for your heirs. They can spend time grieving you rather than having to go through the exhaustive process and the additional grief of going through probate court, which, by the way, again, they're going to take 3% of your assets, going through that long slog, fighting the courts, and then when they get the assets, having to pay, potentially pay tax on those assets. We don't want that. So we want to make sure we can do whatever it takes to lessen that burden. Short video, it's going to be the end of the video. If you like what you see, make sure to like and subscribe below. Have a good day.